Hey guys, hope you're having a great day today. My name is Daniel and I'm the High Mileage Helper. On this channel, my goal is to be able to help you learn more about the RV transporting industry, as well as give how-to videos for your truck and then give recommendations along the way. So if this is our first time meeting, just consider subscribing, hitting the like button if you get good value. And in today's video, we're going to be answering a question, the big question that I hear all the time in the Facebook groups and the forums. And that question is, can you make any money in RV transport? So we'll go ahead and get right into it. So this question I see all the time, nearly every day. You've probably seen it yourself. Maybe you've even asked that question. Can you make any money in this industry? You hear a lot of negative things. You hear maybe a few positive things in this industry about, earning money, making money from this job. But can you really make money in this industry? And so let's unpack this a little bit, as I just think it's a little humorous. It's a little interesting to me as well that this is the only job I've ever had where people legitimately ask, can you make any money in this job? Well, of course you make money, of course you get paid, but I find it interesting that people ask the question in this way, and I would just propose that maybe there is a better way of asking this question that's not so vague, that's not just so shallow. And so what do people really mean by asking this question? So to begin with, I believe that people who ask this question, they're obviously wondering, is this a viable business? Is this something that I could actually be sustaining down the road? Is there security in this industry, in this business, if I were to jump in and get into this industry? And so that's absolutely a reasonable question to ask, but simply asking if you can make money might not be the best way of asking the question. And so what I'd like to do is be able to share some other thoughts with you, maybe propose some other options to you that may be a better question. If you're currently asking this question, if you're hearing somebody else ask this question, maybe you can respond and help them and maybe point them in the right direction with trying to pinpoint what exactly are they asking, what answers are they looking for that would actually meet and answer that question that they currently have, and to be able to give a solid answer as best as you can to help that person make up their mind whether RV transport is right for them or maybe wrong for them. My first suggestion would be to simply ask the person, how much money do you need to make to pay your current budget, to pay for your current bills, your necessities, things you've got to be able to put money towards. What is that number? If you don't have that number, find that number, because simply asking, can you make good money in this industry? Can you make any money in this industry? That's not going to lead to an answer that's actually going to fit what you're really trying to find out. Are all my bills going to be paid? Well, if you don't know the total amount of that, if you don't have your budget worked out, that is the first ground layer. You've got to know what your budget is, where you're at, how much do you have to pull in every single month, and what that total number is per month, or however you divide it up. So that's the first thing, finding your budget, but knowing what's that number that you have to, as it is right now, whether you have a truck now or not that's paid off, or whatever the situation is, what are your current bills right now? Simply asking and finding out what that is, and then going from there, we can kind of find the rabbit trail of information to be able to give you an answer to ultimately point you in the right direction. Maybe this is a good industry for you, or maybe not, depending on, again, multiple factors. So after you found out your budget, how much money you actually need to pull in as is right now just to meet your needs, then you're going to have to ask the question, do you already have a truck paid off? Do you already have a truck payment? Is that included in the budget that you already currently have right now, or is that going to have to be added on to it later? That is the next factor, factoring in your truck payment, additionally getting a quote for your insurance, finding out the cost of entry into this industry, as well as the new repeating payments, whether you buy a new truck, whether you're leasing it from Enterprise, no matter what the case may be, plus your insurance. And so these are some new factors you're going to add into the budget that you already have. And so after you find out that new, probably larger number, now we still don't have the answer. Can you make any money? Is this a viable option for me? Would I be able to survive in this industry and be able to pay all of my bills, and now the added bills that I would now have due to an increased truck payment, commercial insurance, unladen insurance payment. These are now the added things, and we still don't know the answer. Can I make any money in this industry? With our budget in place, we know what we need to bring in. We've added the new truck payment, the new insurance payment, all these different factors that come with the cost of entry into the RV transporting industry. Now the question becomes, how many trips do you have to take? How long do they have to be? How often are you going to be gone? If you're only wanting to be gone 4 or 5 days a week, but your new updated budget requires you to be gone, your full 70 hours every single week, there's your answer. If your new updated budget only requires you to be gone maybe 4 to maybe 5 days a week, but let's say you only wanted to be gone 3 days a week, there's going to be some conflict. There's going to be issues depending on how much you are willing to run versus what your new updated budget is. And so there's so many different factors. When you ask questions like, can you make any money? It's a really loaded question, and we need to unpack that and really dive deeper. Getting a broad brushed answer is a dangerous thing for people in either direction of this. And the even deeper question behind what we just asked, how many days do you need to be able to run to be able to meet or exceed your current budget situation? That depends on the pay rate, how many miles you're running. Are you taking longer trips? Or are you taking shorter trips? What direction are you going in? If the pay rate is different going south rather than west or east, hot loads, old loads, there's so many different factors into this. Maybe now you're starting to see this is not a simple question to be answered very lightly. This is a question that has to be tactfully, precisely looked at on an individual basis. Your home life, your budget, what you're willing to drive, what your new budget will include, if you could even get a new truck with your credit score, with debt, with money you have set aside to be able to buy a new truck, just all these factors. It's so much deeper than simply asking, can you make money in this industry? I know there are people out there who only take 1 or 2 trips a month. Maybe they just go sightseeing, they're retired. If you ask that person, oh yeah, it's no problem. In fact, the money that person might bring in, they really might not even need it. Opposed to the other person who maybe has a wife, has 2 or 3, maybe 4 kids, who has a mortgage, who has student loan debt, who has vehicle debt, unsecured debt, secured debt. They have to bring in a certain amount every single month or else it's curtains. And so depending on who you ask, it can be a very sicky situation because you're not in that person's specific situation yourself. You're in your own whole category yourself alone. And so knowing your budget, updating the new budget with the proposed, new truck payment, the additional insurance. I would also add a certain amount of miscellaneous extra startup cost to be able to get the business operating, all the things, the tools maybe you need that are required to be able to do this job well and efficiently. Those are factors that I believe you need to put into the equation when you do ask something like that. And then lastly, knowing the pay rates at transport companies, and then knowing how many miles you would have to run, minusing out the fuel cost based on a conservative number for loaded and unloaded miles, and then being able to put those numbers together to be able to see, does that meet or exceed your new updated budget that you now have with all these proposed things added on to it for this new business endeavor. So if you're someone who's asking this question, can you make any money in this industry? Or maybe you know somebody else who is, maybe they're asking the question online. If you were to respond to them, or maybe ask yourself, and then maybe go through these checklist of questions themselves, and at the end of all that, be able to look at your new updated budget to be able to see how much you're willing to work with what's actually expected for to be able to meet the budget. Is this a viable option? Or maybe it's not. Maybe this isn't the right thing for you. Maybe you've got insane debt that's hanging over your head. It would require you to be gone every single week, the maxed out potential every single time, and you're just not willing to do that. You're not willing to just never see your family again, essentially, besides maybe one 34-hour reset a week. And so those are things you really need to consider when you ask a question like this, when you hear somebody maybe ask something similar to this. This is a loaded question, so we've got to be diligent. We've got to look at the bigger picture. We've got to know our numbers currently. We've got to look at the updated numbers, be able to compare, and then and ask ourselves, can I survive doing this? Can my family survive doing this? Maybe at the beginning you are gone for several days every week, the maxed out amount. You're hustling extra hard to be able to beat down some extra debt so that later on you don't have to work as much and you can just catch your budget up and be diligent about that going forward so that you don't have to be gone. You can be able to meet or exceed your budget still. You'd be able to beat down some of that debt. Then now maybe your current budget drops some because maybe you've paid off the truck. Maybe you found cheaper insurance. Maybe you're cutting some costs. Maybe you're tightening the belt with extra spending that maybe you shouldn't be with the family. Being able to tighten that budget up so that you can balance your home life with your financial life, being able to pay all of your bills, put money away for the retirement, be able to put money away for savings for a rainy day, and aiming to the point to where you don't have to be gone the entire week. Maybe you're gone a little bit less. You've got a plan, you've got a target, and you're working towards that, but you're hustling a little harder now to be able to get to that point later. So having said all of this, I do believe there are some situations just flat out of the gate where it would not be beneficial for you to get into this industry. If you can't be consistently, reliably on the road, if you can't trust yourself to stay out on the road consistently and push through it, maybe the cost of entry into this business does kind of put you in the negative. But then you find out after you've already gotten into the industry that this isn't the life for you, that you don't like being on the road this much. You don't like the long, crazy hours that it can be, 11 hours a day potentially, that you can't keep up with that pace. And then you're in a deeper situation. And so instead of asking random strangers if they can make money in this industry because they have different budgets themselves, they have different payments, different obligations than you or I do, we need to be diligent, look through these things, ask ourselves these questions, and talk through this with our spouse before we just launch into outer space thinking we're going to make all the money in the world and this is just going to be great, and things eventually kind of implode. We've got to know our numbers as well as we've got to know ourselves in our family situation, what's required of us, what we need to do, what's best for your family, your current situation, and that's different than anybody else's. So hopefully this video was a help to you. It was thought-provoking for you to look at your numbers. I challenge you to get a budget. Go to mint.com, create your own budget, get all of your accounts put into that, monitor everything, look at what you actually spend, what you're doing with your money, see where you can tighten things up a bit so that you can be where you would like to be down the road, where you're not having to absolutely strain yourself, strain your family, and put yourself through a bigger headache than you should. So if this video was a help to you, hit the like button for me, subscribe for more content like this. Let me know down in the comments below, are you someone who has asked this question? It's okay if you have, I understand. I see it all the time. But the important thing is to be able to go from where we're at now, wherever that's at, asking silly questions or not, and being able to get to a more efficient, productive question to be able to get the right answer we truly do need to know before we jump into any new endeavor, any new adventure that we're going to get into. So thank you so much for watching. And if you were to happen to hear someone else ask that question, don't punch them in the face for asking that question. They're just trying to find the answer, but they just simply don't know how to ask the right question. And so be a blessing to them, help them, talk them through this. If you don't have the time to in that moment, or you can't quite articulate the right questions to think about, to kind of go through the process, be a friend to them and maybe send them this video to where hopefully something I've said in this video helps them track down that answer that they're trying to be able to get. So with all that being said, thank you so much for watching again. Hopefully you have a great day today. Stay safe, guys, and God bless.